auditorium is heavy, thick with the silent expectations of hundreds of people. For many, this moment represents the pinnacle of a long journey, yet for others, it feels like a precipice. The floorboards beneath their feet are polished to a mirror shine, reflecting the overhead spotlights that cut through the dimness like surgical beams. Every breath taken by the individual standing behind the mahogany lectern is audible to them alone, a rhythmic pulse that seems to synchronize with the ticking of a clock hidden somewhere in the back of the room. It is a moment of profound vulnerability. To the observer, this is merely a presentation, a routine exchange of information in a professional setting. But to the one holding the microphone, it is an arena where their entire history of preparation, their thoughts, actions, and spoken words are distilled into a single performance. The silence before the first word is spoken is not empty. It is pregnant with the potential for connection or the risk of isolation. This scene unfolds every day across the globe, from the high-rise boardrooms in North America to the community centers in Latin America and the historic chambers of Europe. It is the crucible of leadership, the way a person carries themselves in this space, the way they navigate the currents of their own nerves and the expectations of their audience can signal the ultimate success or the quiet failure of an entire enterprise. It is a realization that often comes too late, that the art of the presentation is not a peripheral skill, but the very heartbeat of influence. As the light catches the speaker's eye, the reality of the situation settles in. This is not just about data or slides. It is about the invisible threads of communication that bind a leader to those they wish to inspire. The journey to this stage began long ago in every conversation and every decision that shaped their character, yet everything now hinges on this fleeting moment. The question remains, is the leader ready to speak, or will they succumb to the weight of the silence? This tension, this delicate balance between the inner self and the outer world, defines the essence of modern leadership and sets the stage for a transformation that goes far beyond the walls of any single room. Beyond the confines of a single stage or a specific meeting room, the landscape of leadership stretches across every facet of human endeavor. It is a vast, multifaceted world where the need for guidance is as ancient as civilization itself. Whether one is overseeing a small volunteer group under the evening stars, coaching a youth sports team on a rainy weekend, or managing a sprawling family unit filled with the complexities of daily life, the core principles remain unchanged. In the bustling commercial hubs of the American continent, as in the developing tech sectors of other regions, the call for effective leadership has never been more urgent. Governments frequently struggle to find a stable focus, and corporations face a relentless tide of competition and complexity that can leave even the most seasoned executive feeling adrift. This is the broader context in which the ability to present one's ideas becomes paramount. The world is waiting for leaders who can cut through the noise, who can provide a sense of direction in an era defined by rapid change and mounting uncertainty. In every corner of society, from the silent pews of a local church to the frantic floors of a stock exchange, the absence of clear communication leads to fragmentation and lost potential. We see it in the sectors that provide for the public good, where a lack of resources is often compounded by a lack of vision, and in the private sector, where startups rise and fall based on the ability of a single individual to articulate a future that does not yet exist. The foundation of this narrative is built upon the idea that leadership is not a title bestowed by an organization, but a practice honed through constant reflection and refinement. It is the recognition that every interaction is a building block in a larger structure of influence. As the narrative expands, it becomes clear that the struggle to lead is often a struggle to be understood. The disconnect between a leader's internal vision and their external expression is the central tension that drives the story of progress. How does one bridge the gap between a private dream and a public reality? The answer lies in the mastery of the very tools many people fear most: the spoken word and the physical presence. This realization sets the foundation for a deeper exploration into the habits and mindsets that distinguish those who merely occupy a position from those who truly lead. In the heart of this narrative, we find the archetype of the modern leader, an individual standing at the intersection of ambition and anxiety. This character is not a static figure but a dynamic being, constantly evolving through the challenges they face. At the core of their struggle is a fundamental conflict: the desire to lead versus the visceral fear of public exposure. While some individuals seem to possess an innate talent for the stage, moving with an effortless grace that suggests they were born to be in the spotlight, the vast majority grapple with a different reality. For them, the prospect of standing before a crowd is a source of profound discomfort. They are the ones who might find their voices caught in their throats, their palms damp with perspiration, and their gaze fixed firmly on the floor or a screen rather than the eyes of their audience. This internal struggle is the first major hurdle on the path to successful leadership. The conflict is not just between the person and the crowd, but within the person themselves. It is the battle between the professional self, which knows that communication is essential, and the primal self, which seeks to avoid the vulnerability of being judged. Many attempt to bypass this challenge by retreating into the safety of digital communication, choosing the anonymity of an email, the brevity of a text, or the distance of a phone call. However, the narrative suggests that these are often mere distractions, temporary shelters that cannot replace the raw power of a face-to-face presentation. The tension is further heightened by the realization that 70% of professionals view presentation skills as critical to their success, yet a vast majority feel their own abilities are lacking. This gap creates a sense of inadequacy that can stifle growth and limit impact. As we introduce this central problem, we see the beginning of a transformation. The realization that one cannot hide forever behind a screen is a small but significant development. It marks the moment when the protagonist, the leader in training, begins to understand that their ability to project their vision is directly tied to their ability to master their own presence. The story begins to move forward as the leader acknowledges that the very thing they fear is the key to unlocking their true potential. As the narrative momentum builds, the stakes of this communication struggle begin to rise. It becomes clear that a failure to present effectively is not just a personal embarrassment. It is a professional liability with far-reaching consequences. In the high-stakes environments of the corporate world or the intricate webs of public service, a poorly delivered message can act like a stone thrown into a still pond, creating ripples of confusion and doubt. When a leader fails to engage their audience, the message is lost, and with it, the opportunity to inspire action. The audience, sensing a lack of confidence or a lack of preparation, begins to drift. Their attention wanders to their phones, their eyes glaze over, and the emotional connection that is so vital for leadership is severed. The cost of this disconnection is high. It can mean the loss of a critical contract, the failure to secure funding for a vital project, or the erosion of a leader's reputation within their own organization. The narrative deepens as we see that the struggle is not just about the technicalities of a speech, but about the perception of competence. In a world that moves at the speed of light, the image a leader projects in those few minutes on a stage can define their entire career. The friction increases as the leader faces the reality that their competitors, those who have mastered the art of presentation, are moving ahead, gaining ground by the sheer force of their ability to articulate their ideas with clarity and passion. The conceptual stakes are raised when we consider that leadership is, at its heart, an act of translation. The leader must translate their internal vision into a shared reality for others. If the translation is flawed, the reality becomes distorted. This mounting tension propels the story toward a necessary confrontation. The leader can no longer afford to be a passive participant in their own communication. They must choose to either refine their craft or risk becoming irrelevant. This moment of choice increases the pressure as the realization sets in that every presentation is a test of their right to lead. The momentum is now undeniable, driving the narrative toward a deeper exploration of how these skills are developed and the profound impact they have on the leader's journey. The exploration of this journey takes us into the intricate details of what it means to truly communicate. It is not merely about the words spoken, but about the harmony between the message and the messenger. In this phase of development, we witness the leader beginning to dismantle their old habits and build something new. They start to look closely at the successful speakers who have come before them, those individuals who move with a quiet confidence and speak with a voice that seems to carry the weight of authority. They observe how a professional speaker controls their body language, ensuring that every gesture reinforces their words rather than distracting from them. The leader learns that the decision to stand or sit, to remain stationary or to move across the stage, is a deliberate choice that communicates a specific energy to the room. They begin to see their appearance not as a matter of vanity, but as a component of their message. The choice of clothing, the way they carry themselves, and the look in their eyes all contribute to the overall impression of autoconfianza and expertise. There is a profound realization that the voice is an instrument that must be projected to the very back of the room, ensuring that no one is left out of the conversation. As they delve deeper, the leader discovers the mantra of less is more. They see how the most impactful presentations are often those that are the most streamlined, avoiding the clutter of excessive slides and overwhelming data. They learn the power of a strong opening that captures interest immediately and a closing that leaves a lasting resonance. But perhaps the most significant discovery is the importance of the emotional connection. The leader begins to understand that people are not moved by statistics alone, but by stories. By sharing personal reflections, memories, and relatable examples, they create a bridge between themselves and their audience. This emotional texture enriches the narrative, showing that leadership is as much about the heart as it is about the mind. A subtle shift in tone occurs as the leader moves from a state of fear to a state of intentionality. They are no longer just surviving a presentation, they are beginning to inhabit it, finding a sense of purpose in the act of sharing their vision. However, the path to mastery is rarely a straight line, and a new complication soon arises. As the leader begins to practice their newfound skills, they encounter the paradox of authenticity. How can one be carefully prepared, rehearsed, and polished while still remaining genuine and relatable? There is a danger in becoming too technical, too focused on the mechanics of body language and voice projection, to the point where the human element is lost. The leader finds themselves tested by this internal contradiction. they might find that their movements feel stiff or that their voice sounds artificial, as if they are playing a role rather than speaking from the soul. This complication is compounded by the unpredictable nature of the audience. No matter how much a leader prepares, they cannot control every reaction, every question, or every shift in the room's energy. A sudden technical failure, a skeptical look from a key stakeholder, or a difficult question can shatter the leader's carefully constructed confidence. This is where the narrative introduces a deeper layer of conflict. The leader is forced to confront the limits of their control. They must learn to navigate the tension between preparation and spontaneity. The challenge is no longer just about giving a good speech. It is about maintaining poise under pressure and remaining resilient in the face of the unexpected. The stakes are pushed even further as the leader realizes that true influence requires a level of vulnerability that can be terrifying. To connect emotionally with an audience, they must be willing to reveal something of themselves, to risk being seen not as a perfect figurehead, but as a real person with flaws and doubts. This unresolved tension creates a peak in the narrative as the leader stands at the threshold of a new level of maturity. They are being pushed beyond the mere mechanics of communication into the realm of true presence. The question is no longer whether they can follow a set of rules, but whether they can embody the spirit of leadership even when things don't go according to plan. This moment of uncertainty propels the story toward its climax, where the true strength of the leader will be revealed. The approach to the climax is marked by a palpable sense of inevitability. The leader has practiced, they have studied the professionals, and they have wrestled with their own fears and technical limitations. Now, the moment of truth arrives, a major presentation that will define the trajectory of their mission. This is not just another meeting, it is a turning point. The intensity builds as the day of the event approaches, with every detail magnified by the weight of what is at stake. The leader's mind is a swirl of structure, stories, and the constant reminder to breathe. They recall the advice of those who have mastered this art, to look the audience in the eye, to smile, and to know their subject so well that the words flow naturally. The pressure mounts as they realize that the success of their entire organization, the morale of their team, and their own future reputation are all converging on this single hour. In the corridors of power, whether in the great cities of Europe or the rising markets of Asia, this pressure is a constant companion. The leader feels the gravity of their role as the bridge between an idea and its realization. They understand that a failure here is not just a personal setback, but a failure to serve those they lead. The focus narrows until everything else falls away, leaving only the leader and the message. The sense of mounting pressure is almost physical, a tightening in the chest and a sharpening of the senses. They are no longer thinking about the individual steps, but are beginning to feel the rhythm of the moment. The stakes are crystallized. This is the moment to either step into their full potential or retreat once more into the shadows of mediocrity. The narrative moves with a cinematic focus, capturing the final seconds of preparation before the speaker steps onto the stage. There is a sense that everything has led to this, that every previous struggle, every moment of doubt, and every hour of practice was merely a prelude to this performance. The air is charged with a static energy, and as the leader takes that final breath before stepping into the light, the world seems to hold its breath with them. The climax arrives in a surge of focused energy. As the leader steps into the spotlight, the world seems to contract until only the connection between them and the audience exists. They do not merely deliver information. They create an experience. Recreating the most crucial lessons of their journey, the leader finds that their body and voice are finally in alignment. The words flow with a fluency that comes from deep familiarity, yet they possess a raw, immediate power. In this moment, in the heart of the American continent, or perhaps in the historic halls of England, the leader demonstrates a mastery that transcends technique. They look into the eyes of those in the front row and project their voice to those in the very back, ensuring that every person in the room feels seen and heard. They share a personal story, a moment of struggle, or a vivid memory that breaks through the professional barriers and touches the audience on a human level. The tension that had been building for so long suddenly transforms into a profound sense of clarity. The audience is no longer a collection of strangers or potential critics. They are a community, united by the leader's vision. The confrontation with their own fear has ended in a quiet victory. The revelation is simple yet transformative, that the power of a leader is not found in their perfection, but in their presence. As they reach the final, impactful closing of their speech, there is a moment of total silence, a pause that signifies the message has been received and internalized. It is a moment of transition where the leader is no longer someone trying to lead, but someone who is truly leading. The trajectory of their story has changed irrevocably. The collapse of the old, fearful self has made way for the emergence of a confident, communicative authority. As the applause begins to swell, it is not just for the words spoken, but for the courage of the person who spoke them. The turning point is complete. The leader has crossed the threshold from doubt to mastery, and the consequences of this transformation will ripple out long after they leave the stage. In the immediate aftermath of the presentation, there is a sense of profound shift. The leader steps off the stage and the world feels different. The adrenaline that had fueled their performance begins to recede, leaving in its place a quiet, grounded confidence. The first wave of consequences is visible in the eyes of the people they encounter. There is a new level of respect, a sense that they have been truly inspired. The feedback is not just polite, it is meaningful. People speak of how the message resonated with them, how the stories moved them, and how the clarity of the vision gave them a new sense of purpose. The leader sees that their reputation has undergone a rapid transformation. They are no longer viewed merely as a manager or a supervisor, but as someone who can command a room and articulate a future. This situational shift is accompanied by a deep emotional realization. The fear that once seemed so insurmountable has lost its grip. While the nerves may never entirely disappear, they have been reframed as a source of energy rather than a barrier to success. The leader experiences a moment of stillness, a breath of space in the wake of the intense activity. They reflect on the journey that brought them here, the hours of practice, the study of successful speakers, and the willingness to face their own vulnerabilities. The weight of the events begins to settle, and with it comes a sense of peace. They have proven to themselves that they are capable of mastery. This aftermath is a time of integration, where the lessons learned on the stage begin to seep into every other aspect of their leadership. They see that the way they communicated in that high-stakes moment is the same way they can communicate in every meeting, every email, and every one-on-one conversation. The climax has triggered a systemic change in their approach to their role. They are no longer just performing, they are being. This pause allows the magnitude of their achievement to sink in, providing the emotional foundation for the resolutions that will follow. As the dust settles, the deeper consequences of the leader's transformation begin to manifest. This resolution is not just about a single successful presentation, but about the permanent shift in the leader's internal and external reality. They find that their ability to influence others has increased exponentially. Because they can communicate with clarity and emotional resonance, they find it easier to build consensus, to motivate their team during difficult times, and to attract new opportunities. The internal transformation is equally significant. The leader has developed a new level of self-assurance that is not based on arrogance, but on the knowledge that they possess a vital tool for success. They have moved from a state of avoidance to a state of engagement. This quiet aftermath is characterized by a series of ongoing successes. They no longer dread meetings or public appearances. Instead, they see them as opportunities to reinforce their vision and strengthen their connections. The central lesson of this journey, that communication is the lifeblood of leadership, has been fully integrated into their daily life. They become a mentor to others, sharing what they have learned about body language, voice projection, and the power of storytelling. The narrative shows a seamless transition toward a new way of being. The leader understands that their growth is not finished, but the foundation is now unshakable. They continue to refine their craft, always seeking to improve, yet they do so from a place of strength rather than fear. The quiet aftermath is not an end, but a new beginning. It is the resolution of the conflict between the person they were and the leader they were meant to become. The inner shift has created an outer reality that is aligned with their highest ambitions. They have become the person others admire and want to learn from, not because of their title, but because of the way they carry themselves and the way they speak. This resolution brings a sense of closure to the specific struggle with presentations, while opening the door to the broader world of leadership possibilities. Reflecting on the journey as a whole, the threads of the narrative weave together into a coherent synthesis of meaning. The story of mastering presentations is, at its core, a story about the essence of leadership itself. It reveals that leadership is an act of service, and communication is the primary vehicle through which that service is delivered. To lead is to share oneself with others, to offer a vision of what is possible, and to invite them to join in that journey. The thematic significance of the presentation becomes clear. It is a microcosm of the leader's entire role. In those few minutes on a stage, a leader must demonstrate the same qualities they use in their daily life: integrity, preparation, empathy, and courage. The philosophical weight of the chapter's journey lies in the idea that every person has the potential to be a great communicator if they are willing to invest the time and effort to grow. It challenges the notion of innate talent, showing instead that excellence is the result of deliberate practice and the willingness to face discomfort. The journey from fear to mastery is a universal human experience, mirrored in the stories of leaders across Latin America, the American continent, and beyond. It reminds us that our greatest obstacles are often internal, and that overcoming them is the key to unlocking our external impact. The broader meaning of this narrative is that a leader's success is not just measured by the goals they achieve, but by the people they inspire along the way. By learning to speak with power and authenticity, the leader empowers others to do the same. This reflection prepares us for the final message, leaving us with the resonant idea that our voices are our most powerful tools for change. As we look back on the path traveled, we see that the struggle was not just about overcoming a fear of public speaking, but about claiming the right to lead with all of one's heart and mind. The story concludes with a final, lingering insight into the nature of successful leadership. It is a reflection on the legacy that a leader leaves behind through their words and their presence. Long after the slides have been turned off and the lights in the auditorium have been dimmed, what remains is the memory of how the leader made people feel. Did they bring clarity to confusion? Did they offer hope in a time of uncertainty? Did they treat their audience with respect and genuine care? These are the true measures of a presentation's success. The essence of the journey is that leadership is a continuous process of self-refinement. Every presentation is a chance to practice being the kind of person others want to follow. It is a reminder that the way we communicate is a signal to the world of our readiness to lead. The closing message is one of empowerment. That no one is permanently sidelined by their fears or their perceived lack of talent. With preparation, practice, and the courage to be vulnerable, anyone can become a compelling and influential voice. The world is in desperate need of such voices, leaders who can bridge the gaps between communities, who can articulate a shared future, and who can inspire others to reach their own potential. This final reflection leaves us with a sense of clarity and contemplation. We are invited to consider our own path, to think about the presentations we have yet to give and the words we have yet to speak. The legacy of a successful leader is built one conversation, one speech, and one presentation at a time. It is a journey that requires effort, but the rewards are beyond measure. As we move forward into our own arenas, we carry with us the knowledge that our communication is our leadership and our presence is our power. The story ends not with a final period, but with an invitation to step into the light and share the vision that only we can provide.